I was gonna say, Chill, how serious do you think this Joel Embiid get in the way stuff is? Because I feel they got some great guard play. They're working him back, but he it looks a little out of sorts when he's out there. This could and I mean, Ox, you're 100% right. No one's taken on his contract. So what is this? How does this resolve itself? Because he's not getting any healthier. It seems he's got no
I
cartilage
think that
left in his knees.
I think that putting him in different space can remedy the situation. I mean, it's not just something that's going to work itself out, right? This isn't a headache that's just going to go away. Like, I think that putting him in different space where in Mars is the Joel Embiid aficionado. Where he screws me up, Mars, is when he's at the where he's at the nail or he's at the top of the key and we're moving the ball and he's standing like right in the middle of the guard play. If I got BJ Edgecombe on the right wing and then I got Maxi on the left wing, and then I got Joel Embiid right in the middle of that, right? I'd much rather Joel Embiid operate at the free throw line or maybe in the middle of the free throw line or even in the mid post, because I feel like with the defense collapsing on him, I can get so much more action from other guys. I could get so much more action from him when he's standing at the top of the key, which is what I see yesterday, where he's asking for the ball. And when he's doing that, now guys are just standing around and watching him. When he's in the middle in that mid post area, guys like Kelly O, who loves that right wing, I mean that left wing, he loves that left wing. He's cracking that three, and it looks really efficient. I just feel like with Joel Embiid, when I say he's in the way, I mean in that aspect. If I put him in different space, I think that they could be a lot more efficient. Not just get him off the floor, but put him in different space where the offense can be more fluid.
I mean, when
Yeah.
have
I
they
mean, I
done that
disagree,
though?
but
Like
I
with
don't.
Philly,
I just disagree. But like, I don't know. I think
It's
last night was the best he's looked. So I don't know. I'm optimistic, I guess, but
I'm
not the best he
optimistic too.
played.
weird
Just the
watching
best he
though.
looked.
Weird watching.
I, last night was the only game I would say he actually looked fine on defense. Like, especially in the second half when he couldn't buy a shot, his defense was fine. Making plays at the rim, he jumped multiple times. He was making rotations. I think each game has been better than the last. Offensively, I think it's been fine. The reason they use him at the top of the key is because they're running dribble handoffs with him and Maxi, which seem to be uber effective. So I don't know why I would change that, because you get Maxi's ability to get downhill with a Joel Embiid screen, and Joel's been really good as a screener. So I think it's opening those guys up. Finding Maxi and VJ for backdoor cuts has been very useful as well, with Joel Embiid being a more willing passer. The scoring stuff is not really something I question with Joel Embiid. This is someone who's now got 4 straight 20-point games while playing on a minutes restriction less than 25 minutes.
22 minutes.
Last night, the second half was egregious. I'm not going to defend when you go 1 for 10 in the second half.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Joel Embiid's offense is not what concerns me. Do I think Joel Embiid is going to go 7 for 21 every game? No. Joel Embiid can score the basketball. That's not the concern. It's how is he moving on defense? How does he fit into the flow of things offensively? The Sixers' offense is better with Joel Embiid on the court thus far this season. Small sample size. If he's only played 5 games, but that even includes the terrible Boston game he played. The offense hasn't been the problem, in my opinion. The defense has been the problem. He's been terrible on defense. But last night, I think he was better on defense. So I think each game he's getting more and more comfortable. He's moving better and better as each game goes on. By the time you get to December, by the time you get to January, when Embiid's not on a minutes restriction anymore, if he's moving like anything competent on defense, I think he makes the team better. Now, is he going to be worth the 55 whatever million he's making? Doubtful. Like, that's a lot of money. But I still wholeheartedly believe that the Sixers team is maximized with a healthy Joel Embiid out there. I don't think any championship aspirations exist without Joel Embiid. I don't think any real playoff run aspirations exist without Joel Embiid. And Philly are trying to compete. So I think they need Joel Embiid. I think they need Paul George. Jared McCain coming back was a big deal for them. He didn't look good, but he was out there just getting minutes, trying to get into game shape. You could see he plays 3 minutes and he's tired as hell. So like they're still working their way up into shape. But I'm more encouraged by the fact that this is like the first Philly team that doesn't fall apart when Joel Embiid's off the court. Like you can afford to ramp up Joel Embiid in games. Yeah, yesterday they all fell apart. When Joel was on the court, they fell apart. When Joel was off the court, they were falling apart. The second half yesterday was just bad, and that's something that we could talk about. Tyrese Maxey struggled in that second half. VJ struggled in that second half. I vividly remember there was a play. Embiid set a screen for VJ. The ball switched it. VJ had Vucevic on him. So, and then VJ kicked it to Embiid. Embiid gave it right back to VJ, telling him to attack Vuce in isolation. And VJ gave it right back to Joel Embiid. And then Joel Embiid threw it right back to VJ again and told him to attack Vooch in isolation. And then VJ threw it right back to Joel Embiid. And like, so it's just like stuff like that. Like you just got to get into a rhythm of things. The offense kind of lost its way in the second half. But I'm not worried about Joel Embiid offensively. He missed shots he can normally make, especially in the mid-range. That's just whatever shot variance. KD went 6 for 18 the other night. Like elite scorers are going to have games where they don't make shots.
Sure, it happens.
But Embiid looking good on defense. He had like 3 steals and 4 blocks yesterday. It's more than Stocks. He was making the first quarter wasn't very good for him defensively. I'll call a spade a spade. But from that point on,
you mean the switch on Josh Giddey at the 3-point
line? There was a play where
Vooch was just driving past him as well.
Yeah, there was a play where Vooch blew right by him for a dunk. But the second quarter onwards, I think Embiid was really good on defense. There was a play he made. Was it Josh Giddey he blocked at the rim, or maybe Buzelis? I can't remember. It was one of those guys in transition. Then there was another play where Buzelis tried to dunk on Embiid, and Maxey and Embiid were both there. Embiid contested vertically, jumped, was very willing to make that contest. He was rotating out to the 3-point line. There was a play in which he switched onto someone on the perimeter and held his own. He looked good on defense, like not prime Embiid, obviously not, but he looked fine.
Sure.
So if you can just keep getting that progress, we're talking about someone who played his first like major game in 8-9 months, like 2.5 weeks ago,
against real good competition last night too.
Like Mars, I feel like you're being. What's the Jordan used to coin this
up to
is it called bias optimism?
Bias optimism. Yeah, you're having.
I mean, I don't know what. I think I'm just calling it how I see it. I'm seeing someone move better,
which is fair.
And I'm saying
I just looked at Baller, what they call it, Data Baller. I mean, they have a negative net rating when he's on the court.
They do because of the defense. Like I said, has been egregious.
So
I don't. You acting like I'm leaving details out.
No,
I said
I'm
he's
just
been
saying
egregious on defense. Yeah, that's the reason they have a negative. I think that defensive rating with him on the court is like 127. They've been terrible.
Yeah, it's 126.5.
Yeah, because because he's been egregious on defense in the games he's played, bar last night. I don't know.
Ben Wallace would never. So I'm gonna. Ben Wallace would never is crazy. Like, what do you think is
accurate?
It is. What do you think is Joel Embiid's like peak now? Like, what are you looking to get from Joel Embiid now?
Moving forward, Mars. Where are we?
Defense like I saw last night would do me just fine. If we can get defense like I saw in the second half yesterday, alongside the offensive game that, as far as I'm concerned, the offense I've been seeing in the Wizards game, like just ramp up the minutes on that type of offense. And then there you got Embiid, who's going to score 30 on any given night, and is a good defender. That's what I expect from Joel Embiid when he's.
Do you think like he has to like pick and choose? Like, hey, maybe if I do want to try to like up my defensive value, maybe I do get a little work. Like similar to,
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm sure you watch like LeBron nowadays. Like when LeBron wants to play defense, that means he's about to not be a great offensive player, like for the time being.
I don't think it has to be, if I'm going to play defense, I'm just not going to be able to score. But I do think it has to be, it's more of a concerted effort to not overexert yourself in the regular season. I think that's like, so I've watched every Philly game with Joel Embiid, without Joel Embiid. The first game against Boston, he was just flat out egregious on both sides of the ball. There was no rhythm. He literally didn't leave the ground. It was the most floor-bound game I've ever seen. Yeah, it was terrible. Then the next game against Charlotte, offensively, he was cool. But defensively, he only made a few plays here and there. It was very sporadic when he would actually choose to do things on defense. Then he missed the Orlando game. Philly looked good. Tyrese Maxey looked really good. Then they play the Wizards. And in the second half, Joel Embiid's defense was the first time I was like, oh, Joel Embiid looks okay on defense. In the second half of that game, the first half, egregious. Second half, Joel Embiid, interesting. Then the Boston game that just happened was, to that point, the best defense I'd seen him play. And even in that game, he still wasn't good on defense. But that was the best defense I'd seen him play because the effort ramped up once again in the second half. Last night, the effort ramped up from the second quarter. And I'm not saying you're going to get a full game of Joel Embiid on defense. But what I am saying is, I think if you watch each of these games, if you watch the Boston game opening night and you watch the Bulls game last night, you will see a night and day difference in how he's moving just 2 weeks apart. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying he's going to improve by the same rate because that's not possible. But if you fast forward a month from now, I expect Joel Embiid to be moving even better. And what does that look like? Does that look like all defensive caliber? Probably not. Does that look like he's the best big in the league? Probably not. But it does look like someone who's off a minutes restriction, is still one of the best scorers on the planet, and can protect the rim. And if he can do those things for the Sixers with a healthy Paul George, with a healthy Jared McCain, I think they're a legitimately good team. I don't expect Joel Embiid to be 2024 Joel Embiid anymore. That was, in my opinion, the best player on the planet while he was playing. I don't expect him to do that. But what I do expect him to do is be able to score the basketball in a variety of ways, draw fouls, play dribble handoff game with Maxi and VJ, and then protect the rim. That's all I'm expecting him to do. And I think last night was the closest we've been to seeing him do those things.
Right. And I think that you get that, Mo. I do think that you get that. I just don't think that you're going to get it to your point like you got it in the past. And I think that's because Joel Embiid is on the floor. Yeah. People expect that, right? Because Joel Embiid is still with the Sixers, they still expect the older they expect the Joel Embiid of old. Let me rephrase that, right? And to your point about the dribble handoff, I saw that. He ended up getting a dribble handoff. Maxey ended up getting a dribble handoff from Joel Embiid, and he went downhill and attacked Vooch. And that's good action. I think that's really good action. The problem is I don't think that they do that nearly as much as they should do it. And not just with Maxey, I think with the other guys too. And I think where the other problem is that I find them, especially when he gets the ball at the top, where he wants to throw the ball between his legs and go one-on-one. I watch them watching him do that. And there isn't as much action as there should be, because Joel Embiid can pass the ball. He's not joke or anything like that, but he can pass the ball. I'd like to see more action, and I'd like to see him working closer to the basket, more in the mid-range and in the mid-post, because I think that he could be much more effective. So that's what I mean when I say that he's in the way, because I feel like the court shrinks when he's at the top and you got the
he's been playing like that though.
Yeah, how's that working?
But
I mean, when he was healthy, he was the best scorer in the league.
And it's not working, and he's not that anymore, right? One of the main reasons why it was working was because Joel Embiid was healthy, and we could get him in action like that where he could be as effective. Joel Embiid ain't blowing by guys like he used to anymore. Joel Embiid, even though he will crack the three and he will knock down an open shot, like he's not doing that at the rate that I would like him to do right now. Maybe moving forward, I could get that. And that's where starting in the mid-post, starting in the mid-range, I feel like that can work to our advantage. And then we can expand our offense a little bit more, as opposed to him being that ball stopper in the middle of the offense where guys find themselves watching. And I think it stagnates their offense.
Damian, I know you have the degree in the sports science and everything. Mars, you're talking about Joel Embiid progressing like in a linear fashion. Well, and basically,
I guess,
kind of.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, like, because Damian earlier said he doesn't really have cartilage in his knees anymore, or at least one of them. I just feel like that's not real. I think there's going to be it's going to be sporadic, because the last player I remember with this kind of a problem that was elite is Dwayne Wade. And by the time we got to like 2013, 2014,
difference.
It was like, oh yeah, D Wade this night could look like old D Wade, but then this other night he looks like, oh damn, does D Wade need to like retire? He look like it's. I don't think Joel Embiid is going to be like. Yeah.
You're seeing
I don't think Joel Embiid's
well.
going like this. I think it's going to be like this. I think it's going to be nice where Joel Embiid looks really good. I think it's going to be nice where Joel Embiid looks like he can't move.
Mars, is it fair to say that, I mean, because I'm the same way when it comes to players. I mean, is it fair to say that you love Joel Embiid so much that you would love to see that Joel Embiid again? So there's a part of you that's hoping that you can see some iteration of that for a stretch?
My Joel Embiid's love comes from the fact that I don't like how people talk about how great he was when he was healthy. I just don't. That's what I don't like. It's not like, oh, Joel Embiid is one of my favorite players to watch. It's like, watching Philly games when Joel Embiid was in his prime, especially when James Harden was there, it took about 3 hours because there's 89 free throws. So it wasn't like the greatest time to watch. But I just don't like. I said when Joel Embiid was playing in 23, 24, I think he was the best player in the world at that point. Like he was playing better than everyone. Apparently
that includes
that's a crazy
Joker.
Take.
That includes Giannis.
Like apparently that's a crazy take. Like this guy was undeniably one of the 3 best players on the planet year after year after year, with Jokic, with Giannis, with Luka, if you want to put them all in that group. But now all of a sudden we're just acting like that wasn't true because of the injuries he's been dealing with. And I don't appreciate that. I stand up for the underrepresented. Like if I feel like the way you get discussed is wrong, I'm going to defend you. It's why I defend James Harden. It's why I started defending Chris Paul. It's why I defend Joel Embiid. It's why I defend Kevin Durant. If I don't like the way people are speaking about someone, the way the agenda or the narrative has been spun about these players, and I don't agree with it, I end up taking the more defensive side. And then ultimately people ends up switching up eventually. And then I end up taking the other side of the fence. Like, for example, with Jokic. I was very pro Jokic. Yeah. I was very pro Jokic 22, 23 before he won a championship. And everyone was like, oh, he's not that good. He's a fraud, blah, 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 blah. Then Jokic won a championship. Everyone decided to do a full 180, while my opinion of Jokic has stayed relatively the same, give or take a few opinions changing slightly. But everyone else has got so high on Jokic that now I find myself on the other side of the fence more often than not, because I feel people flip-flop. Meanwhile, my opinion of Joel Embiid ultimately hasn't changed that much. I think Joel Embiid from 2021 till 2024 was one of the 3 or 4 best players on the planet year after year. That's my opinion of Joel Embiid. Not Joel Embiid this year is going to be the best player in the world. The best player in the East, he's obviously not better than Giannis, guys. Like, obviously, I know he's not better than Giannis. But, like, I just don't like the way that he's been discussed for the last 3 or 4 years. And we're rewriting how good he was when he was healthy.
I don't think that there's anybody up here.
I just don't like that.
Ron, I don't think there's anybody up here that would dispute that when Joel Embiid was healthy, when he won the league MVP, because I wasn't with the whole, it was a damn, here you go kind of MVP. No, he was averaging 30 a game for 3 straight years, right? He was averaging 10, 11 rebounds, right? So he was getting busy. I don't think that that's something that, I would dispute. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm going to say me specifically. But I think, Mars, when you talk about Joel Embiid, because it sounds to me like you're on Ox's staff of the, Johnny Cochran Esquire over here. Like, you're the defense attorney, aficionado, no doubt about that. But with that being said, I want Joe. I understand what you've seen in Joel Embiid, because I saw it too. But I think that we have to come to a point where we have to accept who he's becoming. And I think that there's a part of you that still wants to see him for what he used to be. And I don't think he's that anymore. And I think that there's a part of you that wants to see that from him.
He can still score.
Yeah, and remember who we now. But
I'm watching the guy score 20 in 25 minutes. The guy can still score.
And remember who we talking about here. We're talking about arguably the best scorer in the game.
Yeah, right? I never called him that.
Okay,
but he can still score. All I said was with actual minutes, when he's off a minutes restriction, he can still score 30. That's what I said.
Yes, he could. But what I'm saying, Mars, is with him being able to still get buckets like he does, right? Yes. When he ramps up, the fact that he can still score, what do you expect him to score like? Do you expect him to score like the Joel Embiid of old, or do you expect him to
be able to score 30? That's it. I don't expect.
Right. So
I don't expect him to be the best player in the world. No, it's not.
On any given night or every night?
You're putting words in my mouth. I think
I just want to make sure that I'm following you, Mars. That's all.
Okay, I'm gonna make this. This is my exact words. Sure. Everything I say is exactly what I mean. So it can't be misinterpreted. If you misinterpret it, you're just choosing to.
You listening?
I do not think 2024 Joel Embiid is going to come back. I think when 23-24 Joel Embiid was playing before Kuminga landed on his knee in January, he was the best player in that season to that point. I think he was on his way to a borderline unanimous MVP at that point. Mm-hmm. That was before Luka had really taken off, which is why I'm saying.
Sure. Yeah.
I would have been very interested to see that MVP race unfold if they both stayed healthy. Okay. Anyway, this Joel Embiid coming off another knee surgery, another playoffs being hurt, I do not think is capable of that, particularly because of how far I think his defense has regressed. In 2024, Joel Embiid was an all defensive caliber big alongside being arguably the top 3 offensive player on the planet. I think Joel Embiid can still score at an extremely high rate. His ability to draw fouls is elite. His mid-range game is elite. He still has craft around the rim. I'm seeing that right now on a minutes restriction. Yeah. Do I think he could average 35 a game? No. Do I think he could be Philly's best scorer? Yes. Do I think he's going to help the Philly offense? Yes. The reason I don't think the Joel
keep going.
The reason I don't think the Joel Embiid of old is going to come back is because A, the sustainability of this, And B, the defense is not going to return to all defensive levels. But I do still think he can be one of the best offensive players, albeit not a top 5 offensive player like he was a year and a half ago. That's my thoughts on Joel Embiid. I think he can still produce top 15 level value. On a consistent basis, no. But on a basis of regular consistency,
regular season,
on any given night, I think Joel Embiid can return top 15 value over the course of a season with all the back-to-backs he misses, probably all-star value, top 20, 25. Like, that's probably the range of where he's at. That's where I view Joel Embiid.
The reason why I'm pushing back on this, Mars, is because one of the main reasons why he was what he was because, like you just said, I think that he could get 30 on any given night, right? And that was one of the main reasons why he was at the top of the league in terms of bucket getters. I mean, I think that there's a time when you could say, maybe even you in particular, you could say that Joel Embiid was arguably the best scorer in the game, right? So if I could get, if I could get that back with some level of consistency, there will be conversations about Joel Embiid being in that conversation again, right?
From me.
So with that, maybe not from you, but with that being said, we've seen plenty of times where guys get in conversations and it becomes a conversation with us. The point that I'm making is the reason why Joel Embiid was in these conversations was because, to your point, he could get the buckets that he got at the fashion that he got it as consistently as he got it. Now, in terms of the defense, okay, you haven't seen the defense. Can that defense ramp up like his scoring will ramp up as the minutes progress? Can we get back to that? Because we got back to the bucket getting. Is it ridiculous to think that we could get back to the defense being not all league defensive level, but to a point where he's even better than what he is now because he's not that good? Can we get back to that point? And if we do get,
they need him to be better than he is now.
Sure. And if we do get back to that point where the defense is respectable, where you can't just go to the rim on Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid will rebound at a high rate. If I'm getting 30, if I'm getting on average 26, 27 a game in 30 minutes from Joel Embiid, plus I'm getting competent defense, are we not still talking about Joel Embiid like he's one of the 10 best players in the world?
No.
I mean, but
even that's not what I was talking about him before.
Yeah.
Before I was saying he was a top 3 player in the world. So even if he's top 10, that's not me saying he's the Joel Embiid of old, because the Joel Embiid of old, in my opinion, would be a top. The way Luka Giannis, he'd be a top 5 player in this world, in my opinion. No disrespect to Wemby, he'd be a top 5 player in this world. So even if he's 9th or 10th, that's still not the Joel Embiid of old. Also, it sounds like you want me to say I want to view Joel Embiid the same way I did.
I just feel
because now you're making an argument on why he could be when I'm saying I don't think he will. So
the reason why is, Mars, because I've heard you so many times over the years talk about how good you think Joel Embiid is, and I feel like with listening to you, and I feel like with listening to you, and you just made it abundantly clear. The Joel Embiid of old, the top 3 guy, it's going to be pretty difficult to get back to that level. I think that guy may be, it may be a wrap for that guy. But is it ridiculous to think that we could still talk about him in a space that was close to that? Because I feel like with listening to you talk about him, maybe we can.
On any given night, maybe. Consistently, I doubt it. I don't think he's going to play enough. To Road Talk's point, I think when you deal with stuff like Joel Embiid's knee, and even like to a lesser extent Kawhi's knee, I just don't think on a game-to-game basis they're going to be able, because like sometimes it just doesn't feel right. And that's not because you've added an injury, or it's just sometimes your knee just doesn't respond the way you want it to. So I do think Joel's going to be more liable to have games where he scores 11 points on 4 for 14 because he just and then he's not jumping because his knee just doesn't feel right. But then if you look at it, it's like, oh, well, there's no structural damage. There's no swelling. But when something just doesn't feel right, I think that's entirely possible. So I think that's what you're going to have to deal with Joel Embiid. There's going to be the ultra low lows that didn't exist a year and a half ago. Like his consistency in that 23-24 season was through the roof. It was like every game he's either going to be providing elite defense, elite scoring. He was going to be one of the best offensive players on the planet. You're not going to get that anymore, I don't think. But I do think on a good Joel Embiid night, yeah, I do think he's still capable of giving a team 40. I do think he's still capable of anchoring a good defense. I just think maybe that might be once every 2 weeks. And you need consistency to be a top 5 player. You need consistency to be a top 10 player. That's where I think Joel Embiid is going to struggle. But if Philly can get him healthy for the playoffs, fully healthy, ready to go, no minutes restriction, no issues with the knee, I think they're willing to accept the lows in return for the highs they theoretically believe and see where they can go with it. Does that mean they'll win a championship? Doubt it. but I think that's what they're willing to accept. So we'll see. We'll see. It's Philly in 6 though, for sure. Philly in 6. Joel Embiid Finals MVP. What I will say, if Philly do win a championship magically, and Joel Embiid does magically win Finals MVP, the 180 people will do on Joel Embiid, I will end up being on the side where I'm talking more against Joel Embiid than for him. And it's not because my opinion of Joel Embiid's changed. It's going to be because everyone else is just going to do a full 180, and I'm going to be like, okay. Now all of a sudden he's better than all of these guys.
Real talk, he's better than Shaq. Real talk, he's better than Shaq.
So that's what's going to happen. I just want to make sure everyone is aware that my opinion of Joel Embiid is not going to change, but everyone else will, and I'm going to end up being on the other side of the argument, being called a Joel Embiid hater.